For much of my life, I've had a special devotion to the Sacred Hearts, both the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary. I'm not just talking about what they've meant according to the visionaries. Like today, if you're listening to this, the day that this came out, on June 27th, the Feast of the Sacred Heart, or maybe even the next day, which is the Feast of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. You may be doing this on First Fridays or First Saturdays, which are always dedicated to the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary, respectively. Or maybe you've never really heard of or thought about the Sacred Hearts. Why have a devotion to just a part of a saint or divine figure? Is it just symbolism or is it something more? Let's talk about that. The Sacred Hearts of Mary and Jesus as we walk together down CreationSpirituality. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie, and I am a Christopagan Druid and priest of Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christopagan Druid and sous chef to the dogma.
Today, if you're listening to this the day that it came out, is the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and tomorrow is the Feast of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Like I said in the intro, these are ideas that I've had a very special devotion to for a very long time. And we can go through some of the visions that have happened over time in future episodes if you would like, because I think they're really interesting and we can break them down into a lot of fun elements that they contain. But I really wanted to approach this idea in general today because it's something we haven't talked about on the podcast before. When we talk about something for the first time, I like to do more of a general broad overview. So before we get into all that, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow on whatever app you're listening to us on. We do 5 original Christopagan and Druid episodes Monday through Friday, and you don't know it's a thing. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. All right, let's just get into it now, shall we? So the Sacred Hearts are iconographic images that go quite a ways back. In some ways, they are just that. They are symbols. Because of the mystical visions of quite a few saints, they've come to mean something a bit more. Mary's heart tends to relate to our ability to endure suffering, to ponder the events of our lives in our hearts. It's generally shown as a heart pierced with a dagger, surrounded by a wreath of roses. Why? Because in the Gospel of Luke, at the presentation of Jesus, she is told by the prophet Simeon, "Your heart shall be pierced by a dagger." Not literally, but because she would witness the suffering and death of her son. St. Mary of Agrada's mystical city of God. It's hard to stomach the suffering of the Divine Mother through that process. The Sacred Heart of Jesus is often shown as a heart with a cross on the top, sometimes wreathed in flowers or a crown of thorns, but almost always surrounded by fire or light. Whereas Mary's is about contemplating our life and the events of our life. The Sacred Heart of Jesus is a symbol of mercy, compassion, and the eternal and complete love of God shining out into the world to bring all in and calling all home. The Sacred Heart of Jesus is like a lighthouse shining with love and compassion, calling all people home and warning of the jagged rocks along the way. The Immaculate Heart of Mary contemplates and works through the events of this life. Remember, in the Gospel of Luke, we are told that Mary pondered all things in her heart. And that symbolism works well for these great figures of the faith, but also as models for us. If Mary is the mother of God, if Mary is the Theotokos, if Mary is the mother of Jesus, however you want to envision her, then as the body of Christ, she is also our mother. And so in learning how her heart works, we end up learning more about how our heart should always bring in the needs of the poor, the afflicted, those who've been cast out. When you read or recite the Magnificat, that wonderful prayer of Mary's from the beginning of the Gospel of Luke, we can't help but feel that call to help the less fortunate and to almost pity the powerful and the wealthy, because we know that eventually their power and wealth will be cast down. Nothing that rises to the top stays there forever. It always topples and falls.
I think one of the interesting things about this is in this framing, we're able to really focus in and look at specific aspects in Christianity that are really important and sometimes get lost / are not as approachable when approaching Christianity as a whole. Light is a beacon, and the messages of love, compassion, and mercy are there throughout parables, throughout all the scripture. But it seems like in how Christianity is packaged and delivered, especially the fall redemption Christianity that gets presented in most methods that we run into nowadays, it really obfuscates this. It was one of the aspects that brought me back into Christianity after I had left it in my journeys, my searching. I wasn't seeing the love, the compassion, the mercy. I was lost in the hypocrisy and the hate and the preachers of death preaching death to their congregations. And it was actually the Sacred Heart that was a beacon for me to come back and realize my aversion, which I shouldn't have had in the first place, but the objection that I had, that I was later able to clarify from an aversion into an objection, was with this false Christianity, because its teachings are in contradiction to what Christ was teaching and to the good news, allowed me to come back and focus on that aspect.
I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important to see within Christian circles this cultivation of special devotion to the Sacred Heart. And it's, again, like I said, something very important to me. Like I'm sitting here in the room and I can see the Immaculate Heart of Mary there and the Sacred Heart of Jesus over there. Like they're ever-present icons and images that we carry with us all the time. And the reason for that is to remember that love that is always supposed to be there. It's like what Saint Teresa of Avila said about devotion to the infant Jesus. It is hard to think of oneself as grand and mighty when the one that you worship is but a child. That's a paraphrase. That's basically her argument for devotion to the infant and to the child Jesus. And I think that is a very powerful way of working in the mind, using these symbols to help keep yourself in check and focused on what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish. Devotion to the Sacred Heart, to me, has always meant this very strong, powerful draw to always try to mimic that in my life. One of my favorite practices is from several of Lama Surya Das's books. I believe it's in Awakening the Buddhist Heart and Awakening to the Light of the Buddha. I always get the names of his books wrong, but it's in several of Lama Surya Das's books. This is what he calls the Buddha light practice, where you imagine a saint or a divine figure in front of you and light shines from their heart to your heart. And then you go into this extended metta practice and share that light out to those around you. I love this and have done this a lot, depending on the mood and emotion at the time. Very often when I go to imagine, no matter who I think I'm going to call on for that initial image, either Christ with the Sacred Heart or Mary with the Immaculate Heart would appear. When that light shines down, the imagery of that Sacred Heart moving in, or that Immaculate Heart moving in and beating with my own, became a very powerful image, to the point where I just stopped guessing who I was going to call on. I tend to think of this practice now, in the way that I perform it, as my Sacred Heart practice. It's very simple. You imagine the image of either Christ with the Sacred Heart burning in his chest, or Mother Mary burning with the Immaculate Heart in hers, or sit in front of a holy image, statue, or icon, whatever works best for you. Using an actual image, statue, or icon is perfectly fine for everyone. The important part here is not so much in your imagination seeing the heart move into you. The important part here is feeling it.
Oh, yeah.
Rabbi David A. Cooper used to teach that when we are reaching out to these powers, it is important for us to imagine feeling them if we don't actually feel them. So when you call the angels, if you do not feel the presence of Michael to your right, imagine that you do. What would it feel like if Michael stood to your right side? And it's not so much pretending that Michael is there. It's opening yourself up to what the sensation would be like. How would you feel if the embodiment of compassion stood to your right side? How would you feel if the embodiment of strength was standing to your left?
It's also about filling that space with that feeling.
Yeah.
So even if it's not there when you begin, if you can get to that point where you feel it, it is filling that space.
And it's training your senses to be looking for that sensation. So it's not so much being able to visualize the heart moving from either the imagined image or the actual image from it to you. It's feeling that. What would it feel like? How would you feel if the Sacred Heart or the Immaculate Heart was beating in your chest? They're generally surrounded by fire. So the first sensation you might think of is it would feel warming. You would feel this warm glow maybe in there. What would it feel like to feel that warm glow within? Would that feel like having a hot chocolate, like cozy warmth? Would it feel like being in the arms of somebody that you love, either a family member or a beloved or a friend, and that warm feeling that you feel inside? Would it be that kind of a feeling? What would that feeling feel like? And really cultivating that feeling within. See, I think a lot of people who do visualization get lost in everything must look exactly like the image that I'm trying. The image is not usually important. When the stress is put on the image, the actual goal is to keep you in single pointed mind so that you're looking at the details. In a practice like this, we're trying to actually experience it.
I say it's a guide.
Yes.
Some people get frustrated when I go, recipes are guide like that. It's to help structure, but the feelings is really the goal. Those energies, getting those energies aligned right.
And then you ask yourself, what would it feel like? Because now it's pumping that light, that love, that warmth throughout your entire body. What would that feel like? What would it feel like, that wonderful embrace of a hug? What would it feel like if that was your blood in every bit of your body? That love, that gentle warmth, that joy of that embrace. What would that feel like just all throughout your body, just filling you up? And you get to the point where you can't contain it anymore and you feel it start radiating out of you. So now that love, what would it feel like if you were this source of that radiant light, that radiant love shining out? And once you get there in your meditation, you start bringing people in mind. You either say their name or imagine their face, see that light shining from you to them, and start connecting yourself in and wishing, not even wishing, this is meta practice beyond words, as much as you can keep it beyond words. You try to get yourself to feel that light, that compassion, that energy of love moving between you and them, and go on to the next person and the next person. We keep broadening that circle out till you see your love shining throughout the entire world, the solar system, and the entire expanse of the universe. This radiant beacon of compassion, grace, and love. When you're done with the practice, you just open your eyes and you step into that world that you have now filled with this energy that you have channeled through yourself. It's a beautiful practice. It's one that I highly recommend. I do it almost constantly when I'm sick. And as Thich Nhat Hanh points out in a lot of his books, it's amazing how much you can reduce your own pain by bringing true mindfulness to it. It is a wonderful practice to do when you're feeling well. It's a wonderful practice to do on your Fridays and Saturdays on holidays like this, because that's what we're supposed to be doing here. This isn't an idolatry of, oh, blessed heart-shaped thing.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a window. It's supposed to be something that is luminous, something that shines with that radiance and carries it to us.
It's one of the practices that gets missed so often in a lot of modern day practice. It's about filling a space, your personal space in this case. And how does one go about filling that space? It's not about repelling or running off. It's about filling the space with that love, that mercy, that presence, to the point where anyone that wants to come into it is welcome. If they're trying to carry something into it that can't be in that space, they just have to let it go. And they too can join you in that space.
This is a great practice to do in groups.
It really is. And it's a wonderful way to learn about what filling a space actually means. So often I'll hear somebody incorrectly think that when you're filling a space with this mercy and compassion, you either have to keep somebody out that has hatred in their heart or whatever. It's not about that at all. For somebody who's carrying hatred into that space, the space is already so full, there is no room for hatred to be in it. They're welcome to come in, but they leave behind their hatred. And they too can enjoy being in space of mercy and compassion and love. And they too can get a rest from the hatred they were carrying before. This is like earlier when Charlie was talking about how it's a wonderful practice to do when you're sick and stuff. It's a bit more of a challenge, but a great one to do when you're being racked with anger. Sometimes things trigger us so bad. We get so filled with anger. All we can think about is how to exercise that anger. This is one of those wonderful practices where you can go, I've got anger running rampant in this space. I'm just going to start filling it up. Anger is like detritus in a bucket. You start filling a bucket with water and that detritus pushed out. The floaty duckies eventually get to the top of the bucket and spill out with the excess water. If you keep pouring water, all that will be on the outside and no longer in the bucket. There's no room for it to come back. And that's the point of how these exercises work. Having that as part of your practice gives you the experience of what it is. And with that experience, you then can have that deeper understanding of what it means to fill a space. It's interesting because this simple practice helps you to be much better and more effective with creating sacred spaces.
Oh, definitely. And remember that in Hildegard von Bingen's version of the fall of Satan, what actually happens is Satan is standing there as an angel in the presence of God. And as ego and vanity and arrogance are born within him, it is held between him and the light of God. And the shadow of it gets blown like a sail and pushes him out of the presence of God. This radiant light of God is blowing so strongly that he has put something between himself and the divine, and it's acting like a sail and pushing him out and pushing him away. And that's how the fall happened. The shadow cast by that arrogance and vanity dragged him out of the presence of God, that he was not actually cast out. It's saying that he was cast out as a way to see that, but it's not the mechanics of how that worked. He just got pulled away by this other thing that was blocking the radiant light of God.
I like that imagery of the bucket and the rubber ducky, right? Because you can hold tightly on the rubber ducky and you two are going to end up floating up to the top and then spilling out over the edges and washing away. Or you can learn to let go of the rubber ducky, let it wash away, and then you can still stay and splash and be in the water, in the bucket, in the presence of God.
And this is one of many ways to practice this devotion. You could do simple, more traditional things like a novena, an octave, or a tridium. If you don't know what those are, they're a set devotion done over a set number of days. A tridium is for 3 days, an octave for 8 days, and a novena for 9. As somebody very rooted in Irish spirituality, I like novenas as 9 is a sacred and powerful number. Doing something for 9 days really cements it in. There are many chaplets to the Sacred Heart. My personal favorite is the Chaplet of Glory, revealed in the United States, and involves basically saying the Gloria on each of the beads where you would normally say a Hail Mary. It's a powerful act of devotion to the Sacred Heart and the ever-present glory of God that shines forth. What makes you think of light? What makes you think of love? What makes you think of compassion? For some people, it's singing. For some people, it's playing a musical instrument. For some people, it's dancing. What makes you feel connected to this energy that we're talking about? This love, this compassion, this grace. Is it going out and tending your garden? Then make your devotion to the Sacred Heart that time of tending to the garden. Whatever it is for you, figure that out. Because personal devotions are something that a lot of people are drawn to paganism about. You're encouraged more to figure out what connects with you than you are in mainline Christianity, where everything tends to be dictated down from some authority figure. What resonates with you when you think of the Sacred Heart? What are you thinking of? What makes you have that connection? Find ways to connect that are meaningful for you. When I was younger, I used to make chaplets of the Sacred Heart and give them out. That one's harder to do because beads cost money. Money is something that I do not have in abundance. There are various things that you can do that help you connect to this imagery and iconography. Many saints have also been given various devotions that you can do. But don't do it because a saint told you to, and never do it because Brian or I told you to. Don't do anything because somebody told you to, especially when it deals with your faith. You need to find the things that resonate and connect with you. I have a very visual imagination. So almost all of my practices that really resonate and work with me are highly visual. In fact, even when I say the rosary, it's almost more akin to doing the Ignatian spiritual exercises, because I'm not only saying the words, I am building in my mind the image for each mystery, because that's what works for me. And that's something that I have learned over time. So find out what works for you. How would you want to connect to the Sacred Heart and the Immaculate Heart? Have you ever thought about it? I would love to know. You can let us know in the comments. Is this something you've done before? Is this something you're thinking of starting? Just curious. Don't share anything that you don't feel comfortable sharing, but I would love to know, especially if you have any practices that you love to engage in. Sometimes we don't think of the practices that we would like to do. Brian and I sometimes just go off on lists of things that we like to do because one of them might resonate with you. That's also why we spend time talking about practices of other people.
Yeah.
You never know where you're going to find
Yeah,
that one that resonates with you and you want to do it.
Yeah, because just earlier I sat back and I went, ooh, idiom of novenas, plus the first day to set the intentions, and just came up with a 28-day practice that would also be a way to develop a good habit. And went, that's fascinating. Now, I may not do that with this particular one, but I may come around. And one of the joys of why we list so many, because as Charlie said, different ones will resonate with different people, depending upon where you are in your life, what you need. You may already have something that resonates well, and you may want to build a deeper relationship. And so you might be like, oh yeah, 28-day thing, that'd be awesome. You may be like, oh, I need to dip my toe in this and not dive in the deep end yet. Try it as a short meditation.
So let's know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, or CreationsPaths.com, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if they say you can leave a comment, they don't notify us, so we won't know. But you can leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. And then head over to CreationsPaths.com, click on chat, and you can leave a message there, and we will see it, and we will be able to get back to you. While you're there, if you happen to have a few dollars, you can pass our way. We offer monthly and annual memberships. You can also support us on Patreon and Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both, and you can support us using the Cash App hashtag CreationsPaths. Thank you to everybody who does that. We are ever so grateful. Thank you so much. You all really do help us keep the lights on, keep a roof over our head, and food on our table. If we've ever said anything that's helped you out, please share it with others. That helps us out more than you know. And as we're heading out today, because it is something you can do, O blessed and sacred heart of Jesus and Immaculate Heart of Mary, beat within our chests and help us to remember to ponder all that happens within us deep in our heart, to feel the joys and the sorrows, the creativity and the transformation and change that is rooted within us in all that we do. Help us to bring that to life through grace and compassion, that we might help to build the world to come and ever be participating in the ministry of reconciliation to which we are called. Amen.
Amen.